On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks turn the page to free agency. What do they have to spend, and who are they going to get? We're going to name every free agent the Mavericks could target this week on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
10 Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everyday, or subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section. Name one free agent that the Mavericks have to sign, or text us in our subtext that they have to sign. If you want to support the show, text us, get text alerts from us, talk with us one-on-one. You literally get just get text to your phone. Subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description below. It helps us stay 7 days a week throughout these big moments and 5 days a week all throughout the offseason. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the free agent aura, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
It's free agency week. It's such a fun week. We're so excited. If you missed the episodes over the weekend,
not many of
you're
you
like,
did.
hey, I know some solid numbers over the weekend.
Doing great.
If you did miss those episodes, we continued through the weekend. We're doing the free agency dash. We had a Saturday and a Sunday pod talking more about the draft and dropped some potential trade stuff yesterday. So go back and listen to the last few days leading up to today. Talk about free agency.
Oh, man, we're excited about it. Today's episode, we will talk about the Mavs free agency needs, what they need to do, what they can do. Like, we'll talk about what money they're going to have. And then we'll talk about the free agents. We're going to go through them in tiers. Isaac loves to tier players, and so I suggested today we tier free agents. Too expensive, perfect fit, good fit, fine fit, and last resort. I did not tell Isaac about one of those categories, but that's okay. And we'll get to that. So, let's start here. The Mavericks needs right now, after the draft, the Mavericks had a successful draft. They get Derek Lively, they get Omax, they bring in Rashawn Holmes, they move off of Davis Bertans' deal. Really great moves. It seems like everybody, except for probably Bill Simmons and a couple people here and there, liked what the Mavericks did in the draft. It was a really good process. They brought in some guys that were of big need to them, got a big wing in Omax that is just incredible personality, and I think can add some things to this team for sure, culture-wise and on the court. They bring in Lively, incredible need for the Mavericks to bring in a 7'1", 7'7" wingspan big that can block shots like crazy. He can rebound, and he's a really good rim runner, and he's got this three-point shot that looks really good in his workouts and all that he could add at some point during his career. They do all that. Great. Still have some needs. I think they still need now, after they got Derek Lively, a stopgap center. So somebody for a year, 2 years to come in and start, or at least be another option for the Mavericks as a starter while Derek Lively gets ready.
And somebody, I'll add to that and saying, and somebody that if Lively overtakes them, they're not making so much money,
right? And
they're not at the status to where they can't come off the bench and still compliment him, but they can still come off the bench in their role.
Absolutely. That's what I mean by stopgap center, right? Like that, like somebody that you can start and feel good about, and then also can be benched and you feel good about. I feel like even like Clint Capella could have been that guy. I don't think they're going to get him at this point, but who knows? They also need big defending wings. There's a big need on their roster right now. Is somebody that's big that can defend. Even just any kind of defending wing really doesn't even have to be big. We talked about Bruce Brown yesterday. We'll talk about him again today. And then I also think they still need a third ball handler. Some of you have mentioned Jaden Hardy. Why can't he just step into that role? The Mavericks have not used Jaden Hardy as a primary point guard ball handler type player in Summer League, the G League, or in the NBA. So I don't think they're going to use him. I don't think they see him as that type of player. I think they see him as a Tim Hardaway that can drive and can handle and can do some of those things, but he's not an initiator of the offense at that point. So I think they still could use, especially a veteran type player like that. So those are the Mavericks' needs. Now, Isaac, how can they acquire some of these players? What do they actually have to work with now?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about the MLE. We've talked how they can open up the max version of that around that $12 million. right now, without any roster moves, you're looking at, if Kyrie can take a little bit less than max, they can open up that full 12 for the MLE. If not, if he takes the full max, annual salary max, then they can, make another move or so and open up that. You could do sign and trade. So it's not just about, hey, look, Dallas doesn't have any cap space out there. We've seen teams do this a ton where they don't have cap space, but how in the world do they end up with a free agent? It's because they do a sign and trade. It's another team out there that will re-sign their player, trade it to Dallas for a player or two in Dallas. The only thing is, if you receive a sign and trade player, you will be hard capped at that point. So you can sign and trade your own player and send them out and not be hard capped and all that. But if you receive a sign and trade player, you're going to be hard capped. And then you got the biannual exception too, which is around like $5 million. Somewhere
I think it's like 4.8.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what you're working with right now in free agency.
Yeah. Shout out to CBA.
Show me what you're working with.
Shout out to CBA Mavs. Great article on Mavs Moneyball. He did all the math and went through
Just
it.
a must follow for Mavs fans right now. Must follow. You got to be following CBA Mavs. Change your name, bro. Change your name to the new CBA Mavs. I've seen you debating it on Twitter, but you got to do it.
Or second apron Mavs or something like that when they hit that. So that's what they have to work with. If Kyrie signs for a little bit lower, they'll have $12.4 million in the first year to sign with the MLE, the mid-level exception. And then they'll have about 4.8, I think, of another contract to sign for the biannual. You can split up that mid-level, by the way. It doesn't have to be just 12.4 to one player. But for some of the players we'll talk about, I think that they're going to. Now,
and then obviously minimum contracts.
They'll have minimum contracts. They've got
Boban.
They've got their Boban's a free agent. They've got their two-way guys already. They have 3 this year, so they bring in. I almost said Mike James. What's
Mike James? Mike Jones? Who? Mike Miles.
Mike Miles.
AJ Lawson and McKinley Wright.
I wasn't even thinking of the NBA player Mike James either.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get into actual names. People are wanting to hear names.
All right. Here are the tiers. First of all, Naz Reid is off the board. He would have been in one of the tiers. The Timberwolves now have signed him, and
they needed a big.
have extended him. They're going to pay $90 million in centers next year and $110 million in centers next year. Do you think Cat's on the move?
I mean, if not right now, he'll be gone before the deadline.
Cat's going from $36 million next year to $50 million the year after that.
Yeah, that sounds like cat litter.
That is a tough one. All right, here are the guys that are too expensive. So we're just going to go through all the free agents that are out there basically and say, all right, this is where we categorize them. Too expensive. Fred VanVleet. I don't think they're going to have enough. Unless Kyrie doesn't come back and the Mavericks clear some space, which could still happen.
Let's go ahead and say this. We're operating that Kyrie's coming back at that, $40-something million, however long. So therefore, all right, keep going.
Fred VanVleet, Chris Middleton, Draymond Green, Cam Johnson, Jeremy Grant, Kyle Kuzma, Rui Hachimura. All too expensive, probably.
One of those is not like the other, but
several of those are not like all the rest. These are all very different players.
I mean, I would actually go ahead and throw Brook Lopez into that also.
Oh, I've got a couple more, but I just want to make sure we're in agreement on those.
Yeah, keep going.
PJ Washington, restricted free agent.
I don't have them as too expensive.
I think he's gonna get more.
What do you think he's gonna get?
About like 18. I mean,
okay. I guess if Charlotte, us to pay.
Austin Reeves.
I got lawyer fees to pay. Austin Reeves, sure. Yeah, he's too expensive.
Here's ones I struggled with. Josh Hart.
Okay.
That one, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, unrestricted free agents. The Heat have $173 million in salaries already without those guys.
I don't understand how Josh Hart could be in this category, but Bruce Brown wouldn't.
Okay.
Bruce Brown just won a title playing the same role.
Bruce Brown's doubling his money from last year to this year if he signs for the MLE. Josh Hart would actually lose money if he signs for the MLE this year. So that's the only reason I put Josh Hart is I think he turned down his own player option this year was
13, but
it was more than the MLE. So I don't think he turns that down if he thinks he's going to get less.
Well, it's not always that black and white. Sometimes it's, hey, they want a longer term secure contract of they might take, $1 million less to get a 3 or 4 year deal.
Did you put Mike James? Did you put Josh Hart in?
Get off your Mike James. I have
Did
Josh
you put him
Hart.
in your tiers?
Yeah, I do. I have him in my tiers.
Interesting. Thoughts on but the Max Strus Gabe Vincent, like that, the Miami situation is interesting. Like, put the Windhorst fingers up. Like, what is going on in Miami? They have $173 million in salaries already. Strus, Gabe Vincent, Kevin Love, Cody Zeller are all unrestricted free agents.
Well, this is before they trade for Dame, so
which is also true. Oladipo's picking up that $9.4 million player option, so that's included in the 173 already. Like, I don't know if they can bring back all these guys. Is my thing.
But they don't have any other option to get
correct
other players either. So
another sneaky one for the Bulls, Ayo Dosunmu would be a great fit in Dallas, I think, as a defensive guard coming off the bench, but he's restricted, and I don't think they have enough for him.
Are you putting him in the too expensive category?
Just because he's a restricted free agent.
I'm getting lost by your categories, but yes.
Okay.
I would love him in Dallas.
Okay. I would too. I don't think that they can get him because of he's restricted and because of the money that the Mavericks have. I don't think they have enough. All right,
coming up next, we'll talk about.
You're not in on my categories, so come on up. We'll talk about.
I have these 3 other categories, and some of these players that you think are too expensive that I don't think are too expensive.
Okay, we'll disagree, and I'm excited about that. Coming up, the perfect fits for the Mavericks. Who are the ones that the Mavericks could pay for that would be perfect fits? We'll talk about those coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about eBay Motors. eBay Motors has you covered with all the parts that you need. They are a perfect fit because they know, just like a free agent, you need to make sure that it's a perfect fit price-wise and the perfect fit for your team. Just like your vehicle, they need to have the perfect parts that fit right. If I knew how to change the AC, I would change all the parts in my AC in my car right now because it does not work. It's literally hell on 4 wheels. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence, baby, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back at the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, available only to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show and being part of the Raccoon Squad. We appreciate each and every one of you. Tomorrow's show, we're going to do trades. Today, we're only doing free agents. These are guys that don't have a contract, that want a contract.
This is why I'm struggling, guys. Trades is my pod. Free agency, I struggle.
Trades will be tomorrow. Isaac will have a bunch of trades. We talked about one yesterday that was a sneaky one that I really like. You should bring that one up again tomorrow. But we'll get to all trades and stuff that the Mavericks could do, moves they could make on tomorrow's show. Unless there are rumors, which I am very excited for. Monday, we usually get the rumor drop. We got a Stein drop today, but there wasn't any real Mavs stuff in it.
Yeah, no.
All right. Now the real tiers. The perfect fits for the Mavericks. I
started with 4 players.
Okay. I have a couple. They're not all like straight. I would pay the full mid-level for them. There's like a couple that I think they can get for cheaper, but would still be great fits. Okay. Here's 2 you may not have because you already mentioned one of the names. And I think that they might not be too expensive.
Whoa.
Brook Lopez. Okay, hear me out. There's no way he should make like the 12.4, but he only made 13.9 last year. And if he
just gave me a heck for Josh Hart.
And if he wants a change of scenery and wants to go somewhere else and wants some other, to be somewhere else, like how many other places that have cap or have the full MLE would he want to go to?
He's getting more than 12.
I agree.
Whether it's Milwaukee, I mean, I feel like everybody talking about free agency as far as national media reporters who will know, they've been talking about Houston. I've heard New Orleans stuff.
Yeah.
Like some of these teams with cap space are going to go after him, and Milwaukee's going to have to match some of this, and he's probably going to get like 18 to 20 million annually for like 2 or 3 years.
You're probably right, but he only made 13.9 last year, which is what I was kind of like. And he's 35, so it's not like he's Josh Hart, where he's in the prime of his career, turned down a player option, all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're probably right. He's probably too expensive. The other one that kind of surprised me is Jakob Poeltl. He only made 8.7 last year. So he would still get a pay increase. I do think he'll get 18, 20 million or something a year from the Raptors.
Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know what the Raptors are going to do. They could trade Siakam tomorrow and all of a sudden be like, all right, well, we're letting go of some of these guys and Fred's gone and
Siakam for Towns.
And completely change what they want to do at a moment's notice. And then Pirtle's like, all right, well, I got to go sign somewhere. And so maybe then it happens there. But he's also probably too expensive. But hey.
I would put him in my too expensive tier.
All right, here are the ones that are for real then. Grant Williams.
Yep, he's one of my 4 as far as perfect fits.
Restricted free agent with the Celtics, but the Celtics are up against the apron. They'll probably let him go. I think you give him the MLE, and I think you're pretty happy with that. Bruce Brown, talked about him yesterday. He's more perfect than Grant Williams, in my opinion, even though he's smaller. He's a better player. He's unrestricted. He declined his player option. It was 6.8 or something like that. And so he'll double his money if he comes to Dallas.
Yep, he's one of my 4 also.
Harrison Barnes, unrestricted free agent. I've got him here. I still think that he would be great. You just don't overthink it. You need a big wing that can hit some threes and defend a little bit. You can do worse than Harrison Barnes, I think.
The 3 categories you gave me were perfect fit, good, fine, and last resort, which that's 4. I put Harrison Barnes in the good category for all the reasons that you said. And to have a vet in the locker room too that is so respected like HB would be massive. Also, somebody tweeted at me and said they need to sign HB so we can have, drum roll please.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Say it.
HBO Max. So yes, I wanted that to happen. Love HB.
Yeah, he was right on the line of me. Perfect and good fit. The other one, he's also right on the line, but I'm not gonna.
Don't make it. He's not a perfect fit.
I'm not gonna overthink it. Dillon Brooks.
Stop. No.
They need defense, and I
put him in good. I can't do perfect. He's
okay. Let's talk about Dillon Brooks.
How is he a perfect fit for all the yapping that he does? I think he's a good fit. I think he's a good target. I'm just saying, I just held that perfect category. I couldn't put him as a perfect fit like a Grant Williams, like a Bruce Brown. My other 2 in that category was Josh Hart and PJ Washington. PJ Washington I put as a sign and trade, candidate and all of that.
Sure.
Those 4 guys to me are perfect fits. Dillon Brooks is I looked at that next category as the good group.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I get it. I get the reasons why if he signs with Dallas. I just can't put him in the perfect Bruce Brown, Grant Williams one because of all this the yapping and dumb stuff. Anyway, but
there's a scenario, and I'm with you too. I probably should have him in good instead because I don't think the Mavericks culture is good. Will work for him. I don't think that they have this veteran.
I think Dallas thinks that they would have the culture to make it happen with Dudley, Kidd, and those guys. And I'm not opposed to it. I would talk myself into Dillon Brooks being your Deshaun Stevenson.
Yes,
I could do it.
That's as soon as Memphis said under no circumstances will he be returning to the Memphis Grizzlies, I said I don't think the Mavericks should do this because their culture can't handle it, but I think that they think their culture can handle it. I agree with that wholeheartedly. There's a scenario where he's had a come to Jesus moment where he goes out in free agency and there's a report from Stein today that said he is seeking a contract in free agency that starts higher than the $12.4 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception. So he wants more than what the Mavericks can give him. But what if
Houston doesn't give it to him? He's going to have a road to Damascus moment.
What if he goes out there and here are the teams with cap space? The Rockets, the Jazz, the Spurs, the Kings, the Pacers, the Pistons, the Magic. Who is going to want to bring Dillon Brooks into their young team after seeing what he just did with Memphis? And the only non-young team in there is they're all young, the Kings, I guess. And I don't think they're going to want to bring him in.
I'd like to see him and Rick together.
Him and Rick, him and Pop, him and Jamal Mosley, him and Monty Williams on the Pistons. I just don't see a fit there for any of them. And so what if he comes back and it's all right, well, I didn't get anything that I wanted. And so I'll come back and he has to come to Jesus moment going, man, I got to really change up. And he goes for the 1 year the 1-year prove it deal with the Mavericks, then it's a perfect fit to me. That's
I'd be I'd be fine with that. I would.
My last one in perfect. This one is not. He's not mid-level. He's probably the biannual exception. Is Matisse Thybulle?
No, okay.
Matisse Thybulle has made an all-defensive team, and his offense is not great. But they just need somebody that can go out there and defend. And Luka and Kyrie can create enough offense around him that it would be worth it. And so if you sign him for like the biannual or some kind of even the veteran minimum, which is pretty close to the biannual at this point, that to me is a perfect fit.
Yeah, I have him in the next category, that good category
Yeah.
with Harrison Barnes. I got some other, guys there we can talk about here in a second, but yeah, I think he would be a cheaper swing.
Absolutely. Coming up, let's talk about the good fits. These are some players that are maybe a little more realistic than those, even though those are some pretty realistic targets. But we'll talk about those guys, who the Mavericks could sign coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more players the Mavericks could sign. Give me some of your good fits. I went through all my perfect ones, and we agreed and disagreed, but give me some of your good fits.
You talked about Harrison Barnes, talked about Thybulle.
Yep.
I put Gabe Vincent into this category. Just for all the reasons you said. I think he would be a great third ball handler. I think it'd be great to play with Daniels with Hardy off the bench. I put Seth Curry in here.
Interesting. I had him down in fine fit instead of good fit.
Yeah, the only thing about that is because of the Jaden Hardy stuff. It's so hard to. I mean, we're probably gonna have to have a whole Jaden Hardy podcast at some point of like, where do we have him going into next year?
Yeah,
it's like, if he has the same role as last year, then yes, I think keeping Tim, Seth Curry, something like that. But if people are projecting him, or if they're projecting him to make a leap next year, then yes, I wouldn't go for Seth. I would, that's what would make Tim a little bit more expendable or something like that. But
yeah,
I put, Kobe White's a restricted free agent. I know with Lonzo stuff, they're probably going to have to bring him back, but they still have Caruso, and Io's, I think, a restricted guy too, but I think he would fit. Some smaller ones. I put Austin Rivers, I think, for a minimum.
I have him under fine fit as well. I think he would be fine.
Yeah, just like, hey, if they add him for a minimum, veteran voice, another guard.
Yeah.
And then I put Yuta. I think Yuta's
I didn't have him.
I think Yuta would be a solid fit for this team off the bench.
Yuta Watanabe from the Nets last year. He shot 44% from three in last season. He shot 40% 2 years ago in Toronto. He could be an okay fit. He's 6'9". He's like, bigger.
I know. It's like bring him out the bench. Like, let's do this.
Interesting. I did not list him. I guess I missed him on the list. I had a couple other in good fit. I think Dante DiVincenzo be a good fit with a defender guard off the bench.
I have him in the fine.
Jay Crowder. I don't know what
I put last resort, dude.
I don't know what
Is he cooked?
Yeah. Okay. So somebody texted us today and asked, what about Jay Crowder and bringing him back to Dallas? I said, okay, well, ideally he should be a perfect fit, right? Because he's a bigger wing. He's got experience. He should be he'll be a veteran. And he's only, what is he? He's 32. He's about to be 33. So it's not like he's like 37, like PJ Tucker, Is he
going to be like Markieff was last year?
Yeah.
Or is he more than that?
But then the Bucks traded for him last year. They needed this player. They missed PJ Tucker so much. They needed a player like this. What did they trade? Like 4 second-round picks for him or something? 5, something crazy like that. And then he plays 4 games in the playoffs for them. Basically, it's DNP-CD the last 2 games of the Heat series when they needed him. And so, I don't know what to do with him. I don't know if I should keep him in good fit or if he should be last resort. Like, is he cooked or is he not? Because if he comes in and he's like, okay, well, you can't start Josh Green over me. Then all of a sudden your culture is dealing with some issues there. So I don't know what to do with him.
I'm not dipping into the MLE for him. It's like biannual, it's minimum.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'm thinking about it.
For sure. But yeah, on paper, he should be a really good fit and a perfect fit, but he's not because of those issues I just laid out.
Yeah.
Couple other smaller names, like you said, Torrey Craig, Josh Okogie, both unrestricted from Phoenix. Bring them off the bench, defenders. Torrey Craig is bigger, and I think he could actually play a good role for the Mavs. Georges Niang from the Sixers, he's unrestricted. Come in, take some shots, bigger. Derek Jones Jr., the Mavericks have been connected with him in the past. He'd be a minimum guy, come in and have some minutes. Here's another one that some people, I think somebody had texted us this or commented on YouTube. Keita Bates-Diop, 6'8", been an average defender, 39% from 3 last year. Hey, come in on a minimum.
Yeah.
It's a good fit.
Yeah.
Couple of centers. Mason Plumlee, could he be the stopgap center?
Yeah, I have him on my list. Yeah, he was secretly not too bad for Charlotte before he went to the Clippers.
And he wasn't that terrible for the Clippers until they went to the playoffs.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah. He started for Charlotte. I think he started every game for Charlotte. So that could be a stopgap type center. Name you mentioned yesterday, Nikola Vucevic.
Yep.
That could be a stopgap.
Fine.
He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yep.
Trey Lyles, unrestricted free agent. He played a real good role for the Kings this year.
Yeah, we got some love. He was in that like fake trade to Dallas, or I shouldn't say fake trade, but like the trade that didn't work out and like all that. But anyway, yeah, I think he would be fine. He's
who
small ball five.
Who else was in that trade?
Oh gosh, now I can't even remember. I think it was the JJ Redick trade.
Yes,
right?
yeah, it was the JJ Redick one. There was supposed to be a third team in it, and then it didn't work out. And then like Trey Lyles was supposed to come to Dallas, and then it was then JJ Redick just came to Dallas.
And I'm not here for the Nico Melli slander.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, they got Melli instead.
Get off.
Okay, what do you think about these guys as good fits? I have all these as like third guard off the bench.
Okay, yeah, I got some more. Yeah.
Patrick Beverley.
God, I forgot about him. I mean,
unrestricted free agent.
Sure.
Okay, maybe
I don't know if I can handle him and Brooks together.
Well, you're not getting them both. Maybe you have him as fine. Jordan Clarkson, player option.
I really struggled with him. This goes to the projection of Jaden Hardy. I don't know, like, what do you think of Jaden Hardy? And it's like we have him and Tim right now. Yeah. So I don't know if adding Clarkson to the bench and it's Clarkson, Tim, and Hardy.
yeah, right.
All looking at each other saying, let's get shots.
He's just a talent. Like they just need some talent like that. And so maybe, all right. Well,
I like him. I've always been a fan of him. Yeah.
Underrated one, Shake Milton from the Sixers as your third guard that can fill it up every once in a while. I
mean, sure.
SMU guy. Derrick Rose. He's not going to be brought back to the Knicks. Veteran
guard
off the bench.
I have him in this category. It's fine.
Yeah. Goran Dragic. Is it time?
We're getting, I mean, how many names have we listed on this podcast at this point?
We're going through all of them.
40.
Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah. I mean, I would be open to it as the third ball handler, defender. Him and Hardy would be kind of fun together off the bench.
I think so too. I think they would fit fine. So we would bring him up last year, and people would text us or message us or whatever and say, "What about Dennis Smith? Can we have Dennis Smith back?" And then there's people online that were on Twitter that were all like, "Bring Dennis back," and it was a campaign, and we laughed at it last year. But he changed his game. Like I'll admit, he came in, changed his game, became a really good defender. He's athletic.
He's not Gary Payton, but it's like
no,
he at least changed his game from.
It's not even Gary Payton the second.
But like he is, you can tell that he is changing his game to stick around the league. I think there's a spot for him right now. So
yeah, I think him and Hardy could work pretty well together, coming off the bench.
Small, but
very
both
small.
of them would be small, but
very small. But yeah, I have those as all good because I don't think he would cost that much. None of those guys would cost that much besides Clarkson, maybe Shake Milton, but yeah. All right, who is in the fine category?
Yeah, a lot of those names. Jalen McDaniels, the Sixers traded for him.
Oh, yeah.
So he's a bigger wing that he kind of fell out of the rotation a little bit for them come playoff time. But I'd be interested in him, taking a flyer on him. I've always kind of liked Javon Carter, but if we're getting into the Javon Carter world, then we're really deep.
Javon Carter was good for the Bucks last year. Like he shot the ball really well, like a lot better than you'd think of him coming out. What did he shoot? He shot 42% from 3 last year for the Bucks, and he started like 39 games. Like he's another one. I can't imagine them not bringing him back. But
this one's interesting to me because of the salary stuff. Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Nah,
he's a.
This is initials.
God. I just wonder how much they're willing to pay him.
Right.
And he's a bigger guard. I thought he had little moments there in the playoffs, playing defense and stuff. I don't know. It's like I think you could do worse as a third ball handler, and he's still pretty young. But yeah, I mean, a name you've mentioned a lot of names, so I'm not trying to overlap here. But like, where do you have Kevin Love? Is he an option at all for you?
Not really.
Okay, cool. Me too. I like him, but I would throw Jeff Green in there. I think if Jeff Green still wants to kick the tires and
Uncle
be
Jeff
around, I'd like to have Uncle Jeff there.
Honestly, they need a player like him just to be that vet type guy that has played and has been there, right? Like they tried to have Theo Pinson be that role last year, and I think it would just be a lot better coming from a player that had been to a finals and won the NBA title and played with a ton of teams and played with everybody in the NBA. Like, I mean, they need that type of guy.
Yeah, I'll tell you a name that it wouldn't shock me if he signs in Dallas for like the buying will be probably too rich for me, but at least on a minimum, just because they've shown a lot of interest in the past, and it's Cam Reddish.
Interesting.
I think Dallas will take a swing on him this offseason and try to bring him in, try to make him a defensive guy.
It hasn't worked for anybody, but it might work for us. The Arrested Development meme. A couple other names. Justin Holiday coming back.
Sure. Yeah, he's a shooter. So
what would you do with Cody Zeller?
No, bye.
What would you do with Dwight Powell coming back? According to everybody, the Rockets are apparently interested in him.
I think teams are going to be interested in Dwight for his leadership, just for the hustle, the locker room presence. My whole thing on Dwight is if you can bring Dwight back on a super cheap contract to be he's entered that stage now to where he's been in the league for a little while. I mean, he is, you bring him back as a vet. I do think it gets a little tricky if like you expect Dwight and Rashawn Holmes to have like minutes off the bench because they're really Spider-Man meme-ish as far as like what they do. Iztok, I feel like we line up a lot with what Iztok will put out there, but Iztok had some tweets the other day. I quote tweeted one basically saying what we've been saying, like, hey, like whatever Holmes gives you is kind of extra at this point.
Yep. He's an upgrade over Davis, the Davis spot, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to somebody at church about him this morning, and I was like, yeah, it's like whatever. Like, it's hard to have an opinion on Rashawn Holmes right now because we just haven't seen him play too much. So, but yeah, Dwight on a super cheap contract, sure. Joe Ingles.
Joe Ingles would be. I would put him under a fine, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sure. Karis LeVert.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple names we haven't done. Karis LeVert. He's not what they need.
Karis LeVert, if Tim's traded for like a bigger wing or something, I would entertain it.
Yeah, the Tim for Karis conversation we had last year, that when that trade was rumored, that makes more sense than bringing Karis LeVert with Tim already, like bringing him in as a free agent with Tim. Like it was for clearing the books and doing all that, but they already did that with the Davis deal.
Yeah.
A couple of the names we haven't mentioned. Kelly Oubre.
I don't think he fits in Dallas.
He's not what they need either, right? He won't bring anything defensively. He's big wing, he is a big wing, but just the defensive side of it, you don't get.
Is it bad that I want Yuta over Oubre?
I feel like Yuta would cost less than Oubre, so no.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, I could keep going through names. There's some more, but
let's bring it back full circle real quick as we end. I know we're at we're over time, but for me in free agency, I think you go with the MLE, and I think you swing for the Bruce Browns, you swing for the Grant Williams. If you get priced out on that, then I think you might move down into the category of, would Harrison Barnes be the same category? Like, let's assume Josh Hart goes back to New York.
Yeah.
And it's Bruce Brown versus Grant Williams. Let's say you get priced out of them. Would you give the full MLE to Harrison Barnes? I would really entertain that just because what he would bring, I think he would be your starting four and all of that. But if Barnes doesn't take it, or if you can't get Barnes at that, then I'm looking at splitting it up at that point. Then I'm looking at splitting it up for a couple of these guys that we've talked about with some that are some good fits, and trying to bring multiple bodies in here. If you can't get one of the bigs and stuff too. So ideally you get the MLE as a one player guy, like a Bruce Brown, Josh Hart, Grant Williams, Harrison Barnes, Dillon Brooks, Vucevic, something like that. But that should be your number one thing is can you land a bona fide starter with the full MLE?
There you go. That's what we're looking at in free agency. Again, tomorrow we'll come back with trades. We'll talk about all kinds of trades they can do in free agency. All that happens. There's going to be a lot of trade talk and a lot of stuff and a lot of rumors. So we'll do that on tomorrow's show. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.